By popular request, we are once again trackside along the former Wabash 5th District main line between Defiance and Cecil, Ohio. This line is operated by Pioneer Rail Corporation's Napoleon Defiance and Western Railway, and is known for operating over what some say is the world's worst maintained railroad track. On June 7, 2019, we would follow the slow-moving, walking-speed freight train to Cecil, Ohio, where the train would be tied down for the weekend. The weather was extremely windy this Friday, with gusts well over 20 miles per hour throughout the afternoon. Purchased on December 28, 2012 from Spencer Wendelin's Maumee and Western Railroad, this 51-mile short line began operations in January of 2013, serving industries and elevators between Woodburn, Indiana and Liberty Center, Ohio. Since day one, Pioneer has gradually been upgrading the line through long-term heavy maintenance projects. The short line has been nicknamed the world's worst maintained railroad because of the 50 years of deferred maintenance by previous owners. Pioneer hopes to change that reputation and has made a lot of improvements since our last visit in the summer of 2016. The locomotive on today's slow crawler is PREX number 3054. An EMD GP20U that was originally built for the Santa Fe Railway in November of 1961. Power for the GP20 model was provided by an EMD 567D2 16-cylinder turbocharged engine, which generated 2,000 horsepower. EMD was initially hesitant to turbocharge their 567 series diesel engine, but was spurred on to do so following the successful tests made by Union Pacific in the form of experimental Omaha Jeep 20 units. 260 examples of EMD's production locomotive model with the EMD turbocharger were built for American railroads. In addition to being EMD's first turbocharged diesel-electric locomotive, the GP20 was also the first model to be offered without the standard high short hood. The model's unique nose made them easy to spot on the main lines as they traversed the country on America's prominent Class I railroad companies of the 1960s. In 2019, less than 20 examples of EMD GP20s remain either preserved or in active duty freight service. Indeed, the 3054 is a rare bird and is enjoyed by many Northwest Ohio rail fans. The rails of the ND&W were originally built in 1855 by the Toledo and Illinois Railroad, 5 years before the Civil War began. The route follows the Maumee River between New Haven, Indiana, and Maumee, Ohio, and it was built to connect the growing cities of Fort Wayne and Toledo. Known as the 5th District, the railroad was built over the former Great Black Swamp. Miles wide and 120 miles long, the Great Black Swamp was once an oozing mass of water, mud, snakes, wolves, wildcats, biting flies, and clouds of gnats and mosquitoes. The swamp was the prehistoric extension of Lake Erie that's responsible for the rich and fertile farmlands in Northwest Ohio. It was nearly big enough to cover the entire state of Connecticut, and the water could be as much as 5 feet deep. In the early 1850s, state and federal drainage projects gradually made the region navigable for transportation by horseback, and the soil was very fertile for agriculture. Because the region was completely flat, it made for an ideal railroad route between the two growing city centers. Therefore, the railroad was chartered in 1853 and began running daily scheduled passenger, mail, and freight trains after its completion in 1855. The towns of Toledo, Defiance, and Fort Wayne were the location of 3 large rail yards. The railroad would eventually come under control of the Wabash Railroad system in the late 1870s until 1964, when they were taken over by the Norfolk and Western Railway. Passenger service would end 5 years prior to the takeover in 1959. Under the N&W, the 5th District became a secondary branch, and maintenance was deferred as a result. Combined with the fact that the line was built with lightweight rail over a swampland area, the roadbed began to sink into the ground, causing trains to lean toward the west. In 1982, the N&W became part of Norfolk Southern Railway, who would operate the line for only 8 years. Due to declining traffic, Norfolk Southern abandoned a segment of the branch line from Maumee to Liberty Center. In 1990, the line was sold to the Indiana High Rail Corporation for operation between Liberty Center, Ohio, and Woodburn, Indiana. Indiana High Rail operated the line for several years with Alco locomotives until the company was liquidated in 1997. By that time, this once prosperous line seemed to be facing a possible abandonment. At Cecil, Ohio, the train crew ran around the consist to shove a lone boxcar down the connection track, which was once part of the Cincinnati Northern Main Line. There, former Gettysburg Railroad High Hood GP9 number 105 is seen waiting patiently for its next assignment over the railroad. Cecil is a small farming village in Paulding County, Ohio, with a population around 200. Up until the late 1970s, the Cincinnati Northern Railroad, a New York Central line, shared a diamond with the Wabash and later Norfolk and Western at Cecil. Today, the ND and W uses a short stretch of the former CN Main to switch out Systech Environmental Corporation just south of Cecil. There are several segments of the CN between Michigan and Ohio that remain in 2019. The Maumee and Western Railroad, with help from the state of Ohio's Rail Development Commission, purchased the line between Woodburn and Liberty Center, with their headquarters being located in Defiance. The Maumee and Western operated a daily train between Defiance and Napoleon, except for weekends. At the time, the cost to repair the line was estimated to be in the millions, and way too costly for the MAW to maintain. Despite the poor conditions, the MAW had made some minor improvements with ballast and tamping, but without sufficient funds available, the line still deteriorated further, forcing the Maumee and Western to sell off their remaining assets to Pioneer. After taking ownership in 2013, Pioneer has greatly improved the quality of track, bridges, and other infrastructure along the route. One of the company's main goals in the summer of 2019 is to finish rebuilding Defiance Yard with all new track, ties, and ballast. This particular upgrade will greatly enhance customer service along the line and should be complete by the fall season. In addition to upgrading the yard, the NDNW has replaced hundreds of ties, spikes, and joints along the right-of-way between Liberty Center and Woodburn, Indiana. It might not appear to be all that improved from our last visit in 2016, but Pioneer is making great strides in rehabilitating the line after over 50 years of neglect by predecessor railroads. Thank you for watching Delay in Block Productions. If you enjoyed this video, please subscribe to our YouTube channel and ring the bell to receive notifications every time we upload a new YouTube video. Until next time, happy railroading from all of us at Delay in Block Productions.